Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. And today's video is going to be pretty interesting because for the first time ever, which I honestly didn't think I would be doing this, but for the first time ever, I will be reviewing an episode from the Powerpuff Girls. Now, I, oddly enough, have not seen, or at least as of when I'm recording this, I have not seen a full episode, but I have read about some of the episodes, and I've even watched a review on the specific one that I'm talking about in this video, so I know enough of it to review it, that and a couple others, especially this one and another one that I plan on reviewing here soon, but yeah. Now, the Powerpuff Girls, they do have a couple different versions, and they came out in the 90s, and they do seem to be pretty popular, and since they have gotten some other, um, reboots, I guess, a newer generation, I guess, some of the younger kids, I guess, have come to know them because of these newer versions. But if you don't know anything about them, join the club because I kind of don't know too much about them myself. I'm new to their franchise, but I of course know enough about this episode, and well, I just know enough to review this episode. So without further ado, let's review my first ever episode, or episode review that is, of the Powerpuff Girls. Now, the episode is in season 1. I'm not too sure where it lines up, like, if it's, I think it's either the 5th or 7th episode. I'm not sure where it comes in, I just know it's on season 1. But anyway, so the episode is called Buttercrush because one of the Powerpuff Girls falls in love with one of the villains of the show, which that's actually a pretty interesting idea. But there are, some things with that plot idea that do kind of concern me. And that's because the Powerpuff Girls are supposed to be like these preschoolers. They're I'm not too sure how old they are. I've read different things about how old they are. I think there's like somewhere between 5 and 7, I believe, but I'm not too sure exactly how old they are. So that is kind of strange to see someone who's between, I'm just going to guess 5 or 7, to fall for someone, especially someone who's in their teens, because this villain is supposed to be, from what I've heard, in his teens. And to be honest, I do not see what she sees in him in this episode. But yeah, I don't understand that. But yeah, this episode does it's kind of interesting, but in a way, it's kind of freaky to think that someone who's between 5 or 7, again, I'm not too sure how old they are, falls for someone who's in his teens. I also do not know exactly how old Ace is, who's the villain that Buttercup on the Powerpuff Girls falls in love with, which it's funny, I don't know the Powerpuff Girls' exact age, and I don't know Ace and his friends' exact ages. I just know the Powerpuff Girls are supposed to be little kids, and Ace and his friends are supposed to be teenagers, so that's a major difference. That is a major difference. And one one group are heroes, which are the Powerpuff Girls, and Ace and his friends are the villains. So that's, to me, that's just so bizarre. But what's even more bizarre is that she, of course, falls for him, and since I have not seen this episode, I'm not too sure what triggers that. But again, I'm not too sure what triggers that, but something does. I think they were trying to break up a fight between them or something, or no, I think they were bullying some kids, and they came to the Powerpuff Girls came to stop them, and then I think Ace was telling him he was sorry or something, and Buttercup fell for it, because I did read that Ace does try to, like, sweet talk people to get what he wants or something like that. And I've seen him do this in a clip where he tries to, convince their teacher that he's not bad news. So I technically have seen him do this. Or, well, I have seen him do this. So, yeah, I guess that's probably what caused her to like him. That and her, I don't know, I still feel like she's kind of a little young for even something like that. But anyway, whatever the case is, she falls for him, and then the next day they go to a museum for a field trip, and Ace and his friends break into the museum, and if I'm not mistaken, of all things, they just want a soda. And I'm like, really? So yeah, I don't think that they intended on stealing anything in the museum. Plus, from what I've heard, they're more of a nuisance than like a dangerous villain, even though they actually have tried to kill these three little girls before, which they even try to do that in this episode. They try to get rid of two of them, which I'm like, okay, and you don't think that these guys are a true danger to them? You don't think that? But I don't know, I just, oh boy. But anyway, so Buttercup gives Ace the soda, and he realizes that she likes him, and he uses that to his advantage, which is to get her sisters out of the way. So, yeah, thankfully he doesn't do anything else but try to get her sisters out of the way, which that's bad enough. Tricking her just to get her and her sisters out of the way because they're superheroes. It's just a villain wanting to get heroes out of the way, which, that happens all the time in these superhero things. Shows, movies, books, whatever. So Ace was just being a villain, trying to get the heroes out of the way. Which I like to look at it like that, because if I look at it on the other, with the other lens, I'm like, okay, this is really crazy. Which, that's just the fact that he's a teenager and she's a little kid, and he's also a villain, which is even more scary. But yeah, that's all Ace was trying to accomplish, was get the heroes out of the way. So, yeah. And so that night, I think it was that night, she sneaks out and goes to hang out with them, and then he tries to, act like he's befriending her, so, he can use her to get her sisters out of the way. I'm sure at some point he would probably get her out of the way too, so him and his team could do whatever they want. Classic villains, I suppose. So, yeah, and of course she completely falls for it. And again, it doesn't help that he apparently does kind of like charm people, so to speak, which I personally don't really see how anyone could fall for his tricks. I personally don't really see how anyone could fall for it. But anyway, so he has his friends call her sisters, and they come to rescue her, and he's distracting her by playing this loud music so she can't hear her sister scream as they're about to get rid of them. And then she eventually sees her sisters in danger, and she literally beats the beans out of him once she finds out that he tricked her. And that kind of makes me laugh that she literally beat the beans out of him. Now, I don't like that they do show a scene where she beats him so hard to where he bleeds. I personally don't like that. I think that's a little graphic. I mean, I'm just kind of finicky that way, but yeah, I just I think that is so funny that she literally beats the beans out of him. Kind of like how Anna did with Hans and Frozen. That's so funny how Buttercup and Anna both beat the beans out of the guys that tricked them. Never trick a tough girl, especially if that tough girl is either royalty or has superpowers. Especially if she has superpowers. And some people actually do believe that Anna does have powers. But that's a whole nother thing. So yeah. And then so Buttercup frees her sisters and apologizes to them. And I kind of feel like this episode could have been a little bit more interesting. Like if they were maybe older and if they had maybe if Buttercup's sisters had realized that she liked Ace and them being like, "Are you out of your mind? Do you not remember that he's a villain and that we've stopped him many times before?" Although I think there's kind of some debate that this is actually the first time that they meet them. Although they actually do meet them in the movie, which shows their backstory, but they do meet them at night, and there is some debate that they probably just didn't really notice them since it was dark. But again, I'm new to the franchise, so I don't really know about that. But anyway, so if this was their first encounter or not, I would still think that they would probably be like, "Are you out of your mind?" And even more so if they had met Ace and his friends before and had stopped them before, they definitely would have been like, "Are you crazy?" And that definitely, I think, would have added kind of some juicy conflict there. I think that would have been interesting. And yeah, that kind of would have been interesting to maybe see a little bit of that kind of thing. I guess, if it was done right, but I don't know. I guess the way the episode goes is fine. Again, I actually have not seen this. I've just heard about it and read about it. So I honestly don't know if that would have made the episode better, but just from what I've seen, that might have been interesting if her sisters would have realized that and been like, "Are you crazy? Are you absolutely crazy?" Plus, Ace is no Prince Charming with looks wise, in my opinion. And so, yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, that's really all of the episode. And, um, oddly enough, if I'm not mistaken, Buttercup doesn't even talk much in this episode. I think she only says a few lines, which I think are just at the end, and that's it. Or I forget if it was just one line at the end or just a couple lines at the end. But I think it was just one line at the end, which is really weird since the episode's supposed to be about her. And that really is kind of interesting to think of a hero falling for a villain, or even a villain falling for a hero. That too would have been interesting. But a a hero falling for a villain, that's kind of interesting. Of course, it is kind of creepy the fact that she's a preschooler and he's a teenager, and she's a hero and he's a villain. It's like, what is this, a creepy version of Beauty and the Beast? Plus, Ace again does not look very Prince Charming like. So, yeah, he's definitely the Beast. He looks like the Beast and he acts like the Beast. But I still think it was kind of funny that she literally beats the beans out of him at the end. Don't mess with a tough girl, especially if she's got superpowers. But anyway, I kind of hope I do get to see a full episode of this at some point. And once I do, I might mention that, or at least mention that in one of my videos. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, even though I actually have not seen this episode, I have read and watched a review about it, so yeah, that's how I know all this. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more.